All right, everybody, welcome to the show. This is a bonus edition of Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Adam Azer, Jamey Eisenberg, and Heath Cummings. It comes as no surprise, but we do get a 3-game suspension. This is probably about what we were expecting for Jordan Addison. Addison was the number 25 wide receiver per game last year in PPR. In non-PPR, he was number 18 per game, 63 catches, 875 yards, 9 touchdowns in 15 games. So right now on Fantasy Pros, Heath, Jordan Addison is 83rd overall. He's wide receiver 36. That's his ADP. Everyone was expecting some type of suspension. Where do you have Addison right now?
I believe I have him 77th overall at wide receiver 38. And I had originally projected 2 games for him, 4 games for Rashee Rice. So this is one more game, but I think a lot of people, including Theo Grimminger, have made the good point on Twitter today. You don't take zeros for those 3 games he doesn't play. You're going to have somebody else that you can fill in. So maybe draft him a little higher than he projects for 14 games.
Yes, I brought this up on July 18th. This is when the news first came out that, that their court cases were settled or whatever. He had pleaded no contest to reckless driving. Rashee Rice was sentenced to 30 days of jail time and 5 years probation. And I mentioned that Julian Edelman was suspended for the first 4 games of 2018. His ADP was wide receiver 30. He was 72nd overall. He finished as wide receiver 22, but he was wide receiver 13 per game. He was a unique case, though, because he was coming off a missed season after a torn ACL, I believe. Alvin Kamara was suspended for the first 3 games of 2023. He was RB21 in ADP, 62nd overall, and he finished as RB12 overall, even with the suspension, and RB5 per game. And Jamey, I brought it up then. Heath just brought it up. You are not going to have bye weeks during Jordan Addison's suspension. So let's keep that in mind. You should be able to fill that spot. And you're drafting him probably as a bench player anyway. So where do you have Jordan Addison? And then we'll talk about what this means for Jefferson and Hockenson and McCarthyson.
I just wrote the story for the site. So I looked. Dave, Heath, and I all have him in a similar range. So again, as Heath alluded to, we were kind of expecting this once the court case or the plea deal happened in July, as you're referencing. So I think that's the best approach is, you're looking at it as a round 7 pick where he's in that mix of receivers with like Ricky Pearsall and Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel and those type of guys. I know Heath has them ranked a little higher, but I think that's where they are from an average draft position standpoint. Jacoby Myers, those type of receivers, where in a 2-receiver league, you were never expecting these guys to be starters, maybe flex options. In a 3-receiver league, it makes it a little bit more a little tougher just because they may have been in the mix to be one of your starters. But I think the nice thing about it is he has now the ability to still perform like he did. And if you look at his season last year, like the back half of the season, he was amazing. He averaged in his last 9 games 17.7 PPR points per game. 6 of those games, he was 13.3 PPR points or more. So there's a lot to still like about the situation. However, we are now going into a year of somewhat uncertainty, as we were last year, but once again, because of J.J. McCarthy taking over Sam Darnold. And so you have a quarterback question, which may be same, may be better, maybe worse. We just don't know. And now he's missing 3 games. So the difference, I think, for Addison versus Edelman, for example, you were saying wide receiver 30, is you kind of knew what Edelman's role was going to be. I think we know what Addison's role was going to be. You knew what Edelman's quarterback would be too. There's just the question mark of, can J.J. McCarthy help this extremely high-end second receiver on his own team going into his 3rd year produce at a higher level? That's I'm a little skeptical of. So I'm happy to take him in that round 7 range as one of my top reserves. And hopefully once he starts playing from week 4 on, the crappy thing is, man, he's missing the Falcons game, the Bengals game, and the Bears game. Like those are 3 pretty amazing matchups, especially 2 of those.
And I think another reason for caution with him is there have been a lot of TJ Hockenson and Justin Jefferson absences over the last 2 years for Addison. Now, he was playing with both of them in the second half when he was so awesome, as Jamey referenced, but a lot of that was touchdown based. He's had an exceptionally high touchdown rate each of his first 2 years in the NFL. And one thing you do worry about with first-year starters at quarterback is that touchdown rate. So he doesn't actually have the catch or yardage profile of a wide receiver who produces as a low-end number 2 on a per-game basis, but he scored so many touchdowns that he's produced like that. So the missed 3 games, the fact that Hockenson and Jefferson, and we think Jefferson will be healthy by then, are both healthy, and the fact that you have a first-year starter at quarterback, I think maybe pump the brakes just a little bit on Addison.
I do think, though, that, and you're right, he scored 19 touchdowns in 32 games, 20 total touchdowns with a rushing score. The thing that you look for him is, at least the way like I view him like what we saw from McLaurin last year, Cortland Sutton the last 2 years, how I think DK Metcalf will perform, Jamison Williams, we'll keep going down the sliding scale. He's going to be touchdown dependent to be a standout fantasy receiver. And I think, everything you said, Heath, is right. It's just there is an unknown here. We are talking about what Sam Darnold was last year and how he resurrected himself. This is still a first-round talent that when he was drafted, in a spot to be one of the better quarterbacks in this class, which we know had some pretty high-end production last year. So can he live up to that billing? It's really a fascinating question to see how this is all going to get answered. And the reports have been mixed. I think when you see a situation like this, you expect struggles. So I don't really look at that as a concern. Caleb Williams is struggling. You expect that. New coach comes in, new system. It's how he's struggling and some of the reports. I think part of it is he's going against one of the best defenses in the league every day, and they're giving it to him every day. He's doing it without Justin Jefferson on the field for a big portion of this. That's going to change a lot of things when that guy's out there. Can McCarthy get to a point where this offense is playing at a high level and then Addison slots back in? It could be great, even in the Pittsburgh game. But it could be great because of the soft schedule to start those first 3 games. You really hope to see McCarthy get off to a good start.
Yeah, and for Addison, he is a pretty big presence in the red zone and in the green zone and in the end zone. He kind of out targets Justin Jefferson in those areas of the field. So I hope that continues. This is an opportunity, obviously, for TJ Hockenson to get off to a really good start. This is a guy that we said we're not drafting TJ Hockenson much when we did the tight ends preview. So we will talk about that. You know what? Let's take a quick break here and we'll focus on the rest of the Vikings after this on Fantasy Football Today.
Can I get a spot real quick?
Yeah, sure, man. Hey, wait a minute. You're Dave Richard from FFT.
Yeah.
Huh. Hey, I snagged Alvin Kamara in the 4th round. What do you think?
Is it PPR?
Yeah, full point.
Welcome back, everybody. Funny promo there. So, yeah, Hockenson. You guys want to say anything else about Addison, go for it. Otherwise, talk about Hockenson here. And because it's not really going to change much for Jefferson, it might get him off to a better start. Hockenson, again, we talked about him in the tight end preview. He's a mid-round pick, one that we've been skipping. But this obviously gives him an opportunity to make his mark in the first 3 games of the season. The research I've done, he's had about a 19.5% target share when he's played with a healthy Jefferson and a healthy Addison in 2023 and in 2024. It was pretty similar target share. But what needs to be pointed out was that the Vikings defense got elite last year and their pass attempts went down. They threw 548 times in 2024. In 2023, they threw 672 times. In 2022, 631 times. So that's a big question I have, is how much are they going to throw? Are they going to have this elite defense again and not be as reliant on the pass as we saw last year? And all right, anyway, what does this mean for Hockenson, Heath? Are you more likely to draft him now?
Yeah, and I want to clarify, when we were talking about how we haven't drafted him, I think that's mostly because of how late David Njoku goes. And we all like David Njoku better than TJ Hockenson, and he almost always goes after him. But I have Hockenson projected very close to Sam Laporta and higher than Mark Andrews. And I think the real key is going to be something we just talked about with Jordan Addison, who's done so well in the red zone and the green zone and scoring touchdowns. And that's kind of been one area where Hawkinson's not been that great. And does this mean that maybe he gets off to a better touchdown start? Then that could elevate him. While he seems like one of those guys that's never really been elite, and he's just kind of like a fine pick to be a mid tight end one, he was tied with Travis Kelce for tight end one when he tore his ACL in 2023 and finished the year tight end 2 per game. So there's probably a little more upside there than we gave him credit for in the tight end preview.
I think the one thing that this does now is you sort of look at it's easy to tier these tight ends, right? Because if you're looking at the YouTube page, if you don't want to put Kittle with the top two, it's fine. But I think he deserves to be at least closer to them. So the first three guys, that next group of guys is going to define the position this year.
Yeah.
Laporta, Njoku, Kelsey, and Hockenson. Like, this is where always we get tripped up by these group, right? Every year for the most part.
Yep.
And so it's when are you buying them? So I just hope that with this news that Hockenson doesn't get pushed up to a point, not necessarily in the tight end rankings, but the overall rankings and the overall ADP where you're reaching for him. Because remember, it's just 3 games.
Yeah.
If this was longer than that, then I think you could justify him as tight end 4. But just the fact that it's 3 games, and again, it's still McCarthy, still first-year quarterback. We hope, you referenced it on the show today, Adam, on Tuesday, in regards to Javonte Williams, how you said Chris Godwin, 2 years removed, felt better with the ACL tear. You want to see what Javonte Williams looks like. You want to see what Breece Hall looks like, as we get further away from the injury. And Hockenson will be, only a year and a half, but still, hopefully back to, what he was in that 2023 season when he was, as Heath alluded to, pushing to be tight end 1. Like, he was amazing. So it's a good situation for him, but I just don't think you want to overvalue him. So if you like him better than Njoku or better than Kelsey, that's perfectly fine. Better than Laporta, perfectly fine. I just don't think you want to go crazy with now all of a sudden you're taking him in round 5.
I think we've gotten better with mid-round picks at tight end. The last 2 years have been solid. I'm not saying every pick's been good. There have been some bad mid-round picks at tight end, but there's bad mid-round picks at every position. But last year it was Andrews in round 4, McBride in round 4, Kincaid in round 5, Kittle round 5, Kyle Pitts round 6, Ingram round 6, Jake Ferguson round 7, David Njoku round 7. So that's probably 50% success rate there. Not terrible. It used to be worse than that. The kiss of death to be drafted in the mid rounds at tight end. All right. That's it for this bonus podcast. Thank you so much.
The rest of the receiving core for the Vikings.
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. I think it's, no one seems to care about this except for me, but Justin Jefferson averaged 18.6 fantasy points per game in PPR last year. That was the lowest in 4 years for him. The previous 3 years, 19.5, 21.5, 20.4. He averaged at least 10 targets or 9.8 targets per game in 3 straight seasons. And last year, what did he average? About 9 targets per game, I think, on the nose, right about. So a little bit down, lower target per route run rate. I think that's because he had Addison and Hockenson personally. So, Jamey, what do you want to say about Jefferson and anyone else in this receiving core?
I'm really not looking at Jefferson any differently. Again, he's those first 3 games. If McCarthy is good, if he's at least as good as I hate saying this, at least as good as Sam Darnold, then Jefferson's going to be fine. Top 3 receiver, top 4, top 5, whatever you want to, put him in. Like, I know, Adam, you like Nico Collins, so a lot of people probably in a similar situation, like Malik Neighbors maybe better, like Puka Nacua better, whatever. Jefferson for me is still going to be wide receiver 3. If you really are tied, toss. If it's a toss up for you between CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson, this might push Jefferson ahead of him. Perfectly fine. Don't have a problem with that. It's really about the other guys there. And I think, deeper leagues, Jalen Nailor would be the one. Thomas, maybe you have a different opinion on this. I look at this receiving core and it just screams a lot of guess this, ambiguous that, like just not a lot of certainty on who it's going to be. But Nailor to me is somebody that in those first 3 games, a great DFS play. If you're in a guillotine league that, usually there are 18, fantasy managers, like he might be a good 5th receiver, flex, whatever the case. But I don't want to change my opinion on these guys just because, again, as you said to start the show, like you're not starting, you don't have to start these guys. 14, 16 team league, if you want to handcuff Addison and maybe Nailor, it's fine. But I don't want to, go with the guessing game until maybe we see something, concrete.
In the 2 games Addison missed last year, 13.3 fantasy points per game for Jalen Nailor in a very Jordan Addison way. He had 3 catches in each game, had 85 total receiving yards, but scored a touchdown both games.
I wonder. I haven't looked at it. I'll look at it right now. So this was weeks 2 and 3 that Addison missed. Let's see if there was a spike for Aaron Jones. There was 6 targets in each game. And
you wouldn't be surprised with a first-year starter and Jordan Mason added if the Vikings just go a little more run heavy if they're able to early on.
Holy cow. 6 targets in each game for Aaron Jones on 26 and 28 pass attempts.
But remember, that was without Hockenson and Addison.
You're right. Oh, gosh. I just
Sorry,
got
guys.
Vikings checked there. That's a good point. Thank you, Thomas. All right, we good here? Anything else? Can I go eat dinner now?
I think McCarthy's value doesn't change either. Same thing.
Yeah. Can I go eat dinner now?
I mean, we might as well just keep talking until the draft starts.
If you're listening to this, after we've recorded it and it's not 7 p.m. Eastern yet, hop on over to youtube.com/fantasyfootball today and check out our live stream. We're doing a live mock draft. Jamey, Jamey, Heath, Thomas.
Wow. Oh my God.
For Jamey Eisenberg, Dave Richard, and Ben Trager, I'm Adam Azer. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.